WWE NXT and AEW Dynamite go head-to-head live on USA Network and TBS respectively, and both shows are set to air the first 30 minutes commercial-free. AEW has secured an overrun for the show. Tony Khan has been very active on social media, going as far to take shots at WWE and now TKO Executive Chairman Vince McMahon. AEW's also announced a buy-in for the show 30 minutes before the show goes live on the air on TBS. Details on that, plus an update on Triple H having 99.9% of creative control in WWE under the Endeavor umbrella. Shinsuke Nakamura hits a GTS on Monday Night Raw as the CM Punk WWE return teasers continue. Seth Rollins set to face Drew McIntyre for the World Heavyweight Championship at Crown Jewel. We got the ratings for last Friday's edition of SmackDown. Bronson Reed is the brand new number one contender for the WWE Intercontinental Championship. Becky Lynch defeats Tegan Nox to retain the NXT Women's Championship on Raw, and several matches and segments have been announced for next week's season premiere of Monday Night Raw. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling, and tonight is the night NXT and AEW are going head-to-head once again. The Wednesday Night Wars are back, now moving to Tuesdays for one night only. A reminder, we will be live for a watch-along and a post-show tonight here on YouTube, so be sure to join us. But plenty has been announced regarding each show, and both companies are doing their absolute best to stack the broadcast and try and defeat the other in both total viewership and also the 18 to 49 demographic rating too. Let's start off talking about NXT and then AEW's reaction, because of course NXT, WWE, they have stacked tonight's show featuring several big names making their first ever appearances on NXT. Now, WWE continues to pull out all the stops as WWE NXT goes head-to-head against AEW Dynamite for the first time since last October. It seems WWE and the USA Network are giving fans more incentive to want to tune into NXT. Now, the official NXT X account, formerly known as Twitter, of course, announced that the first 30 minutes of tonight's episode will air commercial-free. They broke the news yesterday, saying the first 30 minutes of WWE NXT tomorrow night will be commercial-free. Of course, the show is absolutely stacked. They've stacked the show with many main roster appearances like Asuka facing Roxanne Perez, Cody Rhodes set to make a major announcement. It was also announced on last week's episode that the show will be highlighted by an appearance by John Cena, who will be in the corner of Carmelo Hayes as he takes on Bron Breakker, who will have Paul Heyman in his corner. There are even rumors of an Undertaker appearance. On Friday's episode of SmackDown, a promo hyping the NXT episode ended with the tolling of the WWE Hall of Famer's iconic gong, potentially teasing a return of the Dead Man. Now, AEW certainly have fought fire with fire when it comes to this as well, because the one-night-only Tuesday Night War continues to heat up, with Tony Khan being very active on social media on Monday night and announcing that he's received some special broadcast consideration for AEW Dynamite, also meaning we can actually get his tweets up because it's best to go through them in a linear fashion, saying that the first 30 minutes of Title Tuesday, AEW Dynamite will be commercial-free on TBS tomorrow night. He also says, remember, AEW Dynamite is in a special time slot tomorrow, 1 week only, Tuesday, AEW Dynamite, Title Tuesday on TBS. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. First 30 minutes are commercial free. As I mentioned, he made the announcement actually hours after it was confirmed that NXT would also be airing without commercials for the first half an hour. Now, Khan posted this news to X, Twitter, and followed it up with another interesting tweet. We can get the tweet up on the screen next. And it said, hashtag AEW Dynamite on TBS, and it featured a gif of Larry David with the line, okay, you want to be a dick. And he simply wrote AEW Dynamite tomorrow on TBS, but certainly he's kind of, I would assume, implying that this was in response to, obviously, what NXT had done, airing the first 30 minutes commercial free as well. So both shows will be commercial free for the first 30 minutes. Now, it continued because then Tony Khan announced later on during the night that we will have a special buy-in for Title Tuesday prior to the show going live on the air on TBS. Tony Khan announced, quote, coming up in hours, Title Tuesday, October 10 on TBS, a special huge Tuesday, AEW Dynamite at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Before AEW Dynamite, fans in the Kansas City area, we recommend arriving in the arena early because we go live at 6:30 p.m. Central for the buy-in. King Kingston versus Suzuki double title match. Of course, this match is going to be for the Ring of Honor World Championship and the New Japan Strong Openweight Championship, also both held by none other than Eddie Kingston, facing off against the murder grandpa himself, Minoru Suzuki. In addition to that, it has also been reported that not only is AEW Dynamite going to be airing the first 30 minutes commercial free, but also it was reported by Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Tony Khan had secured a 10-minute overrun for the Tuesday night show as well, something that NXT regularly enjoys too. So it looks like both shows are going to be on the air for the same amount of time. The first 30 minutes of both shows are going to be commercial free, and also most likely there's going to be an overrun for both shows as well. But this is where it gets quite interesting, and unhinged Tony Khan certainly appeared on social media, because what happened is when Tony Khan was making all of these responses, one fan responded saying that basically they weren't going to be watching. They said, "We're not going to be watching," and Tony Khan responded saying, quote, "Okay, we won't see you tomorrow night for Title Tuesday, hashtag AEW Dynamite then." He also posted a gif of Roderick Strong saying, "Who gives an F?" Now, this other fan account said, quote, "If Sir Vince McMahon said this, there would be many failed AEW fans crying non-stop and furious." To which Tony Khan responded by saying, quote, "If Sir Vince McMahon said this, it would be the least of his alleged misdeeds. Hashtag AEW Title Tuesday on TBS Tuesday, AEW Dynamite tonight." So certainly several people getting involved on social media. Tony Khan getting involved with his promotion on social media as well. What are your thoughts on all of the announcements that we got yesterday? What are your thoughts on both shows airing the first 30 minutes commercial free? What are your thoughts on both having an overrun? What are your thoughts on Tony Khan announcing a buy-in involving Eddie Kingston and Minoru Suzuki, a double title match? What are your thoughts on his comments about Vince McMahon? Let me know your thoughts about all of it in the comment section below, and be sure to join us when we go live tonight for the watch-along of both shows, as well as a post-show of both as well. Now, a big story yesterday was Triple H's creative control in WWE. And according to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, things have been different on Raw and SmackDown, in case you haven't noticed in recent weeks. PW Insider reported what Fightful had mentioned previously on a post-show past Monday, that things had appeared a little different on the surface. They expanded PW Insider yesterday, saying there's been a bit of a morale boost associated with a line of thinking that Triple H is largely directing creative once again, and not Vince McMahon. Fightful can confirm this is a significant prevailing belief within the company, and that there's been a significant boost in optimism in recent weeks over the 8 or so months that had preceded it. Now, Locker Room, infamously, the morale hit an all-time low at the beginning of 2022, largely due to McMahon's lack of creative direction, before recovering significantly under Triple H in the latter part of that year. Talent has not been outright told that Vince McMahon is no longer involved in creative, and most of them were never outright told that Vince had been making changes after returning, although everyone kind of knew it. In December, Vince McMahon had internally declared his intent to push his way back in the company to seek a sale. However, by February, Fightful was told that McMahon's creative forces were being felt. It's worth noting that nobody within creative that Fightful have spoken with worked directly with Vince McMahon in 2023, and he didn't sit in on creative meetings. Instead, he would usually make remote changes and submit them, often shortly before the show went on the air. One exception, of course, infamously, was the Raw after WrestleMania 39, which saw significant sweeping changes to the show. Fightful were told that over the last few weeks, even many of those late changes have stopped, outside of ones that happened due to issues with medical clearances, i.e. LA Knights having COVID. Even then, word that Fightful received was that Vince McMahon changes existed before, but were fairly minimal, especially as compared to how things used to be. Now, regarding this idea of Vince being out for good, unanimously there was a, quote, "I'll believe it when I see it" approach from talent and staff within WWE. WWE, in an official capacity, were adamant after McMahon's initial retirement that he would not be returning. It has been widely reported, Fightful have said that they've long heard that Endeavor looked upon Triple H fondly, particularly given his work over the last year. Now, morale has been boosted over the last couple of weeks, starting with the September 25 episode of Raw. Numerous WWE WWE talent reached out to Fightful after stories emerged yesterday expressing that same sentiment. One WWE higher-up told Fightful, quote, "I think you can take a look at the show. Johnny Gargano is back after his return was nixed. Tegan Nox is on the show. Dragon Lee is all over the program. Carlito is finally factored in after being under contract for months. Cameron Grimes got back on television. Bronson Reed is winning matches. Tag team titles and IC titles are getting long matches to end Raw. I'm not going to say that all of those are direct results of the situation, but all of those parts moving at the same time is a little too much to be a coincidence for me," end quote. Now, one WWE talent said their feeling was that most people on the roster felt a sense of relief when McMahon retired from both a morale and creative standpoint. They said that answering for Vince McMahon's behavior isn't what most of them signed up for, and beyond that, there wasn't a lot of creative confidence in him. Of course, McMahon settled his lawsuits with ex-referee Rita Chatterton, who accused him of assaulting her in the 1980s, while McMahon's lawyer claimed that he did so to avoid the cost of litigation. McMahon, between settlements and other NDA payouts regarding to personal conduct, McMahon has paid out over $30 million after brazenly putting himself on television for no reason. After that, he was encouraged to retire and did so for about 5 months before pushing his way back into the company. This carousel of McMahon himself also led to a carousel with his own daughter, Stephanie McMahon, leaving the company in 2022 while he was being investigated, only to return to fill the void that he left. She also left in 2023, just mere weeks after Vince McMahon declared his intent to return to the company. So what are your thoughts when it comes to the creative direction of WWE at the moment? Have you felt it in terms of recent episodes of Raw and SmackDown that it feels more like a Triple H show or a Vince McMahon show? Or do you share the same sentiment that some WWE talent does, which is you'll believe it when you see it? Now, the CM Punk teasers continue in WWE, and speculation continues to run wild regarding a potential CM Punk return to the company, perhaps as soon as November's Survivor Series in his hometown of Chicago. Sleuthing wrestling minds have noted a few cryptic Punk-related teasers on WWE programming as of late, a few of them throughout the Shinsuke Nakamura-Seth Rollins feud. Monday night's potential tease, however, wasn't very cryptic at all. Prior to the triple threat match to determine the number one contender for Gunther's Intercontinental Championship between Ricochet, Chad Gable, and Big Bronson Reed, Shinsuke Nakamura interrupted Ricochet's entrance, attacking him on the ramp and very noticeably dropping him with a go to sleep, the long-time finishing move of none other than CM Punk. While the GTS has been used by others in WWE, most notably Kenta, formerly known as Hideo Itami, throughout his time in NXT and elsewhere, it isn't a part of Nakamura's usual repertoire and fits with other teasers we've seen over the past few weeks. Corey Graves referenced a famous quote from Punk during the October 6th edition of SmackDown, reciting the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was making the world forget that he existed during a graphics package for Nakamura versus Rollins at Fastlane. Rollins himself dropped a best in the world reference on Raw earlier on in the feud, and Michael Cole harkened back to another old Punk promo telling Rollins that many personas over the years could very well include puppeteer among them. Now, whether or not this makes a Punk return, it's anything but official, but the Easter eggs seemingly continue to be dropped by WWE. The question is, are they intentional? Is it WWE just trolling the audience, or is it a hint that something bigger is to come in the future? Let me know your predictions about that. Now, a World Heavyweight Championship match involving Seth Rollins has been set for WWE Crown Jewel. Drew McIntyre will get a shot at Seth Rollins' World Heavyweight Championship in the first match announced at Crown Jewel in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. The match was set up on Monday's episode of Raw when Rollins came down to the ring to celebrate his last man standing match at Fastlane, the victory against Shinsuke Nakamura. Rollins said he wanted one night off from defending the championship to celebrate his win, but then McIntyre's music hit. Rollins guessed that McIntyre wasn't out there to party, but to challenge him. McIntyre didn't want a beaten down Rollins. However, he said he wanted the champion as close to 100% as possible. McIntyre suggested the match at Crown Jewel, which will take place on November 4, and Rollins agreed. Rollins told McIntyre later in the broadcast that Adam Pearce had made the match official. McIntyre and Rollins last faced off for the championship when McIntyre held the world title during WWE's Thunderdome era during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. McIntyre also retained their championship during their bout at Money in the Bank. Of course, that was a bout that was actually held at the WWE Performance Center with 0 fans in attendance. November's event will be WWE's 5th Crown Jewel Premium Live event emanating from Saudi Arabia. The event is part of a 10-year deal between WWE and the Saudi Arabia's General Sports Authority for the company to host large-scale events in the Kingdom Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Now let's talk about the ratings for SmackDown this past Friday. Of course, it was the Fastlane Go Home show. The viewership figure and demo rating for Friday's October 6th episode of SmackDown on Fox has been revealed. Per Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics, SmackDown drew 2.319 million viewers. This is up from the September 29 episode that drew 2.303 million viewers. This is the highest total viewership for the program since the September 15 episode. In the 18 to 49 demographic, Friday's show scored a 0.64 rating. This is also up from the week prior that scored a 0.60 rating. The show featured LA Knight defeating Jimmy Uso by disqualification after interference from Solo Sikoa. Post-match, John Cena made the save, which led to the Judgment Day coming down to align with the Bloodline. However, Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes came down to stand by Knight and Cena before a brawl broke out with the babyfaces standing tall. Now, we mentioned earlier on, we have a new number one contender for the Intercontinental Championship, and it's Big Bronson Reed. A triple threat match featured Chad Gable, Ricochet, and Bronson Reed to determine who would get the next shot at Gunther for the IC title. Now, as I mentioned, we had a bit before the match where Shinsuke Nakamura attacked Ricochet. The action got started before the bell even rang as Shinsuke Nakamura interrupted Ricochet's entrance with an attack. After Nakamura's assault on Ricochet, officials ran out to break it up ahead of the commercial break. After the break, things eventually got started. While Chad Gable was able to show off impressive strength and Ricochet captured an impressive set of offense, neither could put down the big man. In the end, it would be Big Bronson Reed who would eventually hit a big splash to pick up the pinfall victory over Ricochet and become the new number one contender for the Intercontinental Championship. As of this recording, Gunther has held the Intercontinental Championship for 488 days. The championship match between Gunther and Reed will take place on next week's season premiere of Monday Night Raw. We'll let you know more details on that in just a short second. Becky Lynch retained the NXT Women's Championship last night against Tegan Nox, a match that's meant to have happened ages ago. Tegan Nox had to endure several delays after earning the opportunity to face Becky Lynch for the NXT Women's Championship. The good news is the match finally took place on last night's episode of Raw. The bad news is her patience was all for nothing, as Becky Lynch retained despite a good showing from the challenger, who ultimately tapped out to Lynch's disarmer submission. Nox was originally slated to accept Lynch's open challenge for the title on the September 18th episode of Raw before creative changes nicked things that night. The following week, she earned a shot at the title after all, defeating Natalya in a number one contenders match, and while the challenge was supposed to go down last week, Lynch couldn't get medically cleared following her Extreme Rules match against Tiffany Stratton at NXT No Mercy. Monday night, in a highly competitive match, Nox managed several near falls but ceded in the end as the title reign for the man roars on, at least until Halloween Havoc, where she'll face her next challenger in NXT's Lyra Valkyria. But this isn't all bad news for Nox, who has had significant time on television as of late, and it doesn't appear as though that will be disappearing anytime soon. In a backstage segment following the match, her interactions with Natalya continued as part of a segment also featuring Kaden Carter, Katana Chance, and the Women's Tag Team Champions Chelsea Green and Piper Niven that culminated in a match between Niven and Natalya announced for next week. Now also, Becky Lynch, she was also greeted by someone backstage, featuring in a backstage segment featuring Becky Lynch holding the NXT Women's Championship. She was interrupted by a familiar face. Xia Li made her return to Raw after a long absence from WWE television. While she has appeared in matches on Dark Match Series or Main Event, Xia Li hasn't been seen on WWE television proper since March. Li was last seen in a WrestleMania 39 showcase match where she teamed with Lacey Evans and lost against Natalya and Shotzi. So we could be getting at some point possibly Becky Lynch versus Xia Li in the future. Finally, next week, it will be the season premiere of Monday Night Raw on USA Network. Now, several matches have been announced for the show. In a backstage segment, Rhea Ripley demanded a match from Adam Pearce in order to get her division in order. Ripley will face Shayna Baszler on the season premiere of the show. After multiple run-ins throughout Monday's episode of Raw, Ricochet and Shinsuke Nakamura will settle their feud in a Falls Count Anywhere match. There will literally be a big Intercontinental Championship match, as we mentioned, when Gunther puts his title on the line against Big Bronson Reed. Also announced for the show, a big Undisputed Tag Team Championship rematch with the Judgment Day's Finn Balor and Damian Priest getting another shot at the titles, currently held, of course, by Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso. They didn't know who they were going to be facing until the main event of Raw last night. In the main event of Raw, Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes looked to defend their recently won Undisputed Tag Team titles against Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. In the end, they were able to successfully retain the titles with an impressive display of respect by the end of the show. Kevin Owens shook hands and hugged Jey Uso as the metaphor celebrated to close the show. Also set up via a backstage segment, as we mentioned, is Piper Niven versus Natalya. But there you go, guys. It's the latest pro wrestling news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.